NASCAR apparently has their eyes on a major American city to race in their downtown area, plus Dale Jr. making his crew chief debut this weekend at Pocono. Welcome back to the Breaking Bob channel. Hope y'all are doing well. What a loaded day in the NASCAR world. It felt like everyone was doing a news dump. Every time I looked down at my phone at work, there was something else. A fire being put out, somebody getting fined, something coming out in the world. Let's just try and recap all of it we can today in one piece. So stay with me here. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel for all NASCAR and motorsports content here on a daily basis here at Breaking Bob. But we have no time to waste. There's simply no time. So let's just jump right into the first thing that we want to talk about today. And a couple weeks ago at the Nashville Xfinity race, Connor Zillage, after post-race inspection, they did notice a couple lug nuts loose, which meant a suspension, a one-race suspension for his crew chief, Marty Lindley. And, well, it's time to pay the piper. And with that, Connor Zillage needs a new crew chief this weekend at Pocono. In comes Dale Earnhardt Jr., who will be on top of the box, reported by Junior Motorsports on their Twitter account today. It was one of those things you looked down and said, I got to check the profile. There's no way. There's no way. But yes, Dale Jr., for the first time in his career, will be making his crew chief debut for Connor Zillage in the 88 Junior Motorsports entry. Now, Lindley will be still calling the shots likely from Charlotte. He just can't physically be there. It's a little bit different nowadays, though. It's not like they're not able to get the information and relay it to the track. So Dale Jr. more of a figurehead crew chief, but still the fact that he's the boss stepping up and he's going to be crew chiefing the 88 at Pocono this weekend. Something to watch. Very cool story. Next up, we've got Carson Hocevar, who it seems like every week, one way or another, is in the NASCAR news. And of course, his comments this weekend about Mexico have come to light. If you didn't see his Twitch stream the other night before even on-track festivities, this is what kind of got him in some hot water.
This is what I put. This is how I put it. This whole experience, if the travel was better, if getting here was easier, if you felt safer getting to and from everywhere, if it wasn't such a shithole, if the track limits were a little better enforced.
Okay, you get the point. I'll cut it off there before we get too far into it. Now, Hocevar did later come out after the weekend, said, I made a mistake. I'm young. Didn't really get to actually experience the area. There's this whole tweet. You can read it here if you want. You can pause it. But, basically the fact of the matter is he said, yeah, I should have kind of actually experienced the area before I spoke up. And, definitely learning curve for Carson Hocevar in the media world. He's just learning at 22 years old. And with that, Spire Motorsports did lay the hammer down a little bit on their young driver. A $50,000 fine plus sensitivity training issued to Hocevar through Spire Motorsports. They reported to NASCAR. They said, this is what we're doing. And Hocevar did come out, even with people saying, oh, well, Hocevar was just speaking his mind. Hocevar came out, squashed that immediately. It's no. This was me. If you want me to be me, this is me also owning up to the fact that my opinion changed. And, I'm not going to get into the comments and the whole discourse about Mexico City. There's been some negative discourse for sure on it. But one thing I will say is we're watching Carson Hocevar mature in real time in a very public forum. And it's not like he's this guy who's just running at the back. He's a talented driver that's one day likely going to be a Cup Series champion, definitely a winner in the Cup Series. He's 22 years old, and he's got a very public platform, especially streaming on Twitch. Every now and then, you say a dumb thing. It's just, we got to watch what we say there for sure. But regardless, for Carson Hocevar, it definitely seems like he is trying to right his wrongs, and he's coming from a good place there. We're just, again, 22 years old. What were you doing at 22? I'm sure I wouldn't have been very good on this channel at 22, that's for sure. But, regardless, I think we can finally put the Carson Hocevar Mexico City comments to bed and move forward now to see Carson Hocevar eventually get that first win whenever it comes. Next up, an update in NASCAR, and it's not the lawsuit you're probably thinking of NASCAR versus 2311 and Front Row Motorsports. No, we've got an update on RWR Racing versus Legacy Motor Club. Us sickos just love the NASCAR, I guess. Courthouse News Service originally reporting that RWR Racing is now countersuing Legacy Motor Club over this whole charter dispute, where a couple of months ago it was reported that Legacy Motor Club had agreed to purchase a charter for RWR Racing next year. And then RWR Racing said, whoa, we didn't realize it was for 2026. We thought it was for 2027. We have this whole lease thing with RFK where we're finagling charters back and forth. And the way that the charter system works, if they would lease the charter that was allegedly sold to Legacy Motor Club next year, RWR Racing wouldn't have a car because the other charter is leased out to RFK for 2026. So with that, they're countersuing. Part of that unsealed court filing shows that RWR Racing was made it very imperative to Legacy that this was for 2027. They needed that charter for 26 in order to even operate as a motorsports team. Now, the part of that document, quote, should RWR be forced to sell charter number 27 for 2026, it would have no charter under which to race and would go out of business. For this reason, RWR would never have agreed to sell charter number 27 in advance of the 2026 season. It was even revealed in court that Legacy has paid that $750,000 down deposit, and RWR Racing has insisted on giving it back. Legacy said, no, you keep that money, we'll take that charter. So something to watch here, developing story, as we have, of course, this second lawsuit in the NASCAR world that doesn't seem to be talked about that much, but could have a major ripple effect in the NASCAR world if Legacy Motor Club gets a third charter. And finally, our major story of the day. We're almost there, folks. Stay with me here. We have some news that NASCAR, of course, on the heels of Mexico City as they expanded their roots and their territory in the motorsports world, North America. Now they have their eyes on another major city in North America, although this time on the American side of the border, although very close. NASCAR, reportedly with Jordan Bianchi and the Athletic, is set to be very close to a street course race in San Diego, California, just a little bit north of the Mexican border. But notable that NASCAR trying to get back into that Southern California market that they're out of for 1 year this year after 3 years at the Clash at LA Coliseum. Of course, Fontana for years, that 2-mile track that's now gone. But Bianchi says that they are just about a month away from potentially announcing this as NASCAR returns to Southern California in San Diego, one of the biggest cities in America. It may not be talked about a lot, but yeah, San Diego, one of the biggest populations, and racing in a climate like that in an area that you don't have a ton of racing in as far as major motorsports. You have Long Beach, but outside of Long Beach, that's pretty much it. So, of course, with Fontana gone, Irwindale gone, Riverside gone, you're just checking every box, gone. NASCAR is bringing the street course potentially to San Diego. But San Diego in 2026 means that a race would have to leave the schedule. Could it be Mexico? It's only a 1-year deal right now. Could you see Chicago street course fall off? It just street course for street course. That's been talked about, of course, that NASCAR has the option for 2026, but all parties right now are saying we'll see about Chicago next year. Of course, Chicagoland is on the table as well, but we're still in the same conundrum. Another track has to fall off. Definitely something to keep an eye on. But just a few hours later, an article surfaced from Pocono Record that NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell was doing an interview with the local area that right before the Pocono events this weekend with NASCAR in town. And well, he was talking about racing in Philadelphia, just a few hours away. Now, this had been kind of rumored a couple of months ago. I didn't do a video on it just because it was a little out there, but O'Donnell did give a little credence to potentially racing in Philadelphia. O'Donnell said, quote, Pocono is delivered for us in terms of fans, but when you look at opportunities, one of the places we looked was Franklin Field in Philadelphia. It was one of the only places we could put a racetrack inside. Those are the type of things that we, within a city, we're going to look at. Franklin Field, home of the Penn Quakers in downtown Philadelphia, one of the oldest football fields in America. It's not very big, though, and not big capacity. And the way he phrased that, I don't want y'all to go and think, oh, Bob's reporting that they're going to be racing in Philadelphia at the University of Penn. The way he's talking about it, he's saying that this is just some of the criteria they're looking at to expand their territories when racing in an urban or city development area. And do I think they're going to be racing at this place? No, I don't. I think especially when you consider they're also close to Dover, just a couple hours away. You've got Pocono right there. But it shows NASCAR wants to be in these markets that are major cities, that you seeing ratings that F1, especially in the Northeast, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, they're really doing well in those areas. Well, why not bring your racing to those people as well? And it works in Chicago, whether people want to admit it or not. Worked in Mexico, whether people wanted to admit it or not. It's probably going to work in San Diego. So, you know, bringing your sport to people instead of making them go into the rural areas. Nashville Super Speedway is a perfect example. How many people in downtown Nashville are going to go out into Lebanon, 45 minutes out? You're asking a lot for somebody who may be on the fence of going to it. But look at the IndyCar race, the Music City Grand Prix, when it was downtown. Very, very successful. And then they moved to the Oval this year. And I'm all for ovals. You saw my video yesterday. I was big on IndyCar ovals, but you also have to bring yourself to fans as well. It's a balance. So something to watch there. Again, I don't think they'll be racing at the University of Penn Stadium anytime soon, but I think it does show that NASCAR is just showing what they're looking at for the future of the sport. They're going to balance their roots with also growing the sport, I think, and that's a good thing. They're not stuck in the same schedule that it seemed like they were for 10, 15 years that really put themselves in a rut. They're finally digging themselves out, and I'm glad to see it. So let me know your thoughts down below. A lot we covered today. Of course, the new potential markets NASCAR is trying to race at in Philadelphia, but sounds like for sure San Diego. Dale Jr. making his crew chief debut. Carson Hocefar's whole thing behind him. I don't need your comments about that. We're good. We can put that away. And of course, we do have that the latest in the RWR Racing versus Legacy Motor Club. So make sure you like this video if you like what you saw. Subscribe to the channel for more Breaking Pop content. Hopefully tomorrow's video, if we have one's a little shorter, because I don't know how much more news we can take, but I'll be here to cover it all regardless. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.